This is Atomic Film, and I'm your host, Sam. Filmmaking can be very demanding, and there are certain things that you need in your filmmaking arsenal to make sure that your videos are high quality and you have versatility in where you can shoot. First, you'll need a tripod to put your camera on. I started with this one right here for stop motion animation. Works just fine as long as it has extendable legs, a quick release plate, such as I will show, and a 1/4-inch screw that adapts to most cameras. The tripod plate is shown here. This is something that you would screw your camera into, and then you would lock this into your tripod. Obviously, you'll need a camera. Cameras record video, as you probably know, and may or may not record built-in audio, and they also may or may not have an audio port to put in external audio, such as from a microphone. Additionally, your camera should have settings that can be adjustable, such as ISO, shutter speed, and aperture. It is also nice to have control over your white balance and shooting style. This can be very useful to obtain the video you desire for editing. Your next concern is audio. There are many different types of microphones, including the shotgun mic, a dynamic mic which you may see a singer use, and my personal favorite, the lapel or lavalier mic. This is one in a set that I'm currently using to record audio. The other microphone can be seen right here. And each microphone has a different purpose. Once again, the shotgun would be used to record a very narrow range of audio from short distances. If lapel mics are not desired within the shot or are simply too much work. A dynamic mic would be something you would usually use off-screen for narrating work or something along that line. And finally, once again, the lapel mic would be used for distant audio or an interview where something is very acceptable to have within the shot to get the best quality audio for its purpose. While audio and video are probably the most important parts of filmmaking, the next is clearly lighting. Lighting is very important because it allows the fine look you want. There are 3 settings in camera you will primarily use to control the brightness of the image. You will have your aperture, which is how wide the lens is opened. This has 2 effects when opened more widely. It brightens the image, and it allows for more depth of field, which means objects that are not in focus are significantly more blurry than they would be otherwise with a more narrow lens. When you open up the lens more, that is lowering the f-stop, that is the terminology used, and that is that for the aperture. The next setting you will use is the shutter speed. The shutter speed controls how long the sensor is exposed per frame or picture, and it directly affects the brightness of the image. But when brought down too much, to a high number, it'll be very choppy and dark, and when too long and bright, it will be very, very smooth. The typical shutter speed would be twice the frame rate. I'm recording at 24 frames per second, so I will be using a 1/50th of a second aperture. And the final setting is ISO, which is the direct amount of light that your sensor is exposing to. It controls how sensitive the sensor is, but it may cause noise, which can be very ugly, and that is why you will want to avoid bringing that to too high of a number. There are 3 types of lights you will use when recording. You will use your halogens, which are cheap. They get very hot though, and they don't last as long as the others and have a high power requirement. You will not use any incandescents. They're pretty dim and not useful for this sort of task. Next, you have fluorescents, which stay cooler than halogens, last longer, and but they are more expensive. Finally, you have LEDs, or light emitting diodes, which have a very low power usage, last very long, They're quite expensive, however, and yes, that is amazing. I'm using LEDs to record right now. I picked the one up to my left. It is a 100-watt bulb, and it is priced at about $10 at a Walmart, and the other is probably about $3. It's a 60-watt. It's great for this kind of stuff. Lighting can be cheap if you know where to look, but you will not get the brightest bulbs at certain stores. The next thing is very optional. It gives you versatility in special effects, but it can be pricey depending on where you look. I am talking about green screens or chroma key. This allows you to key out a background, allowing to put the subject in any desired setting with certain limitations. However, it can be very, very useful. I picked up mine for around $100 on Amazon, and I got 2 of these fluorescent lights with stands and umbrellas. It was a great deal, and it provided an excellent starting kit for me. There are plenty of tutorials online for the software you will use or need. I used Adobe After Effects, Creative Cloud. Finally, there are 3 types of filters you will want to have. First, you have a neutral density filter. I ordered this pretty much exactly last week, almost to the hour. And what it does is it allows certain amounts of light to reach the sensor using polarizing glass. I'm going to try to do that where there's not so much glare. Next, you have your circular polarizers, which I discuss in a previous video. Finally, you have ultraviolet filters. What they do is, in the olden days of filmmaking, you would actually need this to control the UV light that reaches your sensor. But now, DSLRs and many of the cameras we use today, that's not an issue, so we just use UV filters to protect the lens. It is very useful for times where maybe it gets scratched and you don't want to buy a new lens. So definitely buy a circular polarizer, a neutral density filter, and finally a UV filter. We'll also need a cat because the internet loves cats.